All right, today we're jumping straight into a wild story of power, secrecy, and a secret fund of over £700,000 that sources allege was the engine behind the current UK government's rise to power. It is a really complex web, and we're going to untangle it piece by piece. That's a pretty heavy statement, right? It's from the documentary that first exposed this story, and it really sets the stakes. This isn't just about some internal party squabble. The claim is that this hits at the very core of the democratic process. It's a huge claim, so let's dig into the evidence behind it. So, at the very center of this whole thing is a man you've probably never even heard of, and yet he's been described as arguably the most powerful person in British politics. His name is Morgan McSweeney. So, who exactly is he? Well, on paper, McSweeney is the Chief of Staff to the Prime Minister, Keir Starmer. But if you believe the sources, his role is so much more than that. He's painted as the master strategist, the architect who basically engineered Starmer's entire journey from opposition leader to the most powerful job in the country. Now this is where it gets really interesting. This guy operates almost entirely in the shadows. He's known for being intensely secretive. You can't find a proper interview with him anywhere. He learned the ropes from Peter Mandelson, who was a legendary and pretty controversial figure from the New Labour days. And the key thing to remember here is the organization he ran, a think tank called Labour Together. This is the guy who went from running that little group to running the Prime Minister's entire office. So how does a secretive political operator pull off a grand plan like this? Well, according to the sources, it takes money, a lot of money, and in this case, a massive fund that was allegedly kept completely off the books. Just take a look at that number, £739,492. This isn't just a random figure. This is the specific amount that the UK's own Electoral Commission later confirmed was not properly declared by the very organisation McSweeney was in charge of. And that organisation was Labour Together. Now, publicly, its whole mission was about healing divisions in the Labour Party, finding unity. But the allegation here is that this was just a cover story. That behind the friendly-sounding name, it was really a vehicle for a secret factional plot to take over the party. So where did all this cash come from? The sources point to two main donors. First, you've got Sir Trevor Chin, a well-known pro-Israel businessman who was actually awarded one of Israel's highest honors. And then there's Martin Taylor, a very secretive hedge fund manager whose company has huge investments in American private healthcare. And this right here is the heart of the controversy. Huge, undeclared donations from people with very clear political and financial agendas. Okay, so you've got this secret fund, you've got these powerful donors, but that's just one piece of the puzzle. How is this money actually used? Well, the sources claim it was the fuel for what they call a plot to seize power inside the Labour Party. I find this slide absolutely fascinating because it shows you the two completely different realities that were allegedly going on. On the one hand, publicly, Labour Together was all about unity. Their own website even promised that all their donations were being properly reported. But then you look at what was happening internally. The project apparently had a code name, Operation Red Shield, and their own internal analysis identified discovery as one of the biggest threats. Kind of makes you wonder, right? And here, supposedly, is the playbook. Step 1, use that secret money to pay for a ton of deep polling on Labour members. Find out exactly what they want to hear. Step 2, take that data to Keir Starmer's inner circle, this Arlington Group. Step 3, use that inside info to position Starmer as the candidate of continuity, a radical eco-socialist who would carry on the torch. And then the final step, step 4, the pivot. As soon as the leadership was won, those key promises were just dropped. Okay, I know, those are some pretty explosive claims. But you know how we do it here? We don't just take one source's word for it. We've got to fact check this stuff. So we've pulled in a separate analysis that actually cross-references these claims with official records, leaked documents, and other reporting to see what really holds up. So let's break this down. The huge claim about a secret project running on over £730,000 of undeclared money, well, that's rated mostly true. The Electoral Commission did, in fact, fine Labour Together for failing to declare that exact amount. What about the donors and their interests? That's true. Official records confirm who they are and their business connections. Now, the more sensational claim about McSweeney being best pals with an Epstein associate, that's partially true but sensationalized. The professional link to Peter Mandelson is absolutely real and important, but the rest is just hype. And the Arlington Group meetings? Also true. The group's existence and McSweeney's role in it are confirmed elsewhere. This timeline, for me, really gets to the heart of it. The official defense from Labor Together was that this was all just human error, a simple paperwork mistake. But look at the sequence here. Way back in 2017, the Electoral Commission explicitly tells McSweeney, you must report these donations. Then, for the next 2 years, he and his organization repeatedly tell everyone, MPs, the public, on their own website, that they are reporting them. This evidence just raises some serious questions about whether this was a simple oopsie or something a lot more deliberate. So, what's the big takeaway here? Why does this story about some internal party fundraising from a few years back still matter today? Especially when these same people are now at the very top of government. Let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. This right here is a really crucial point. You might be wondering, is this whole story just a political hit job from a rival faction, or is there a real scandal here? Well, the analysis we're looking at concludes it's actually both. The facts are largely real, it's a genuine uncovering of information, but the way that information is being presented is absolutely being weaponized in an ongoing internal power struggle. And that really brings us to the fundamental principle that's at stake. This quote just nails it. It calls this a textbook case of dark money. We're talking about hundreds of thousands of pounds, totally hidden from public view, given by donors with specific agendas, which could then be used to shape the policies of a future government. So when you boil it all down, the takeaways are pretty stark. This story isn't just about one guy or one political party. It chips away at our trust in the entire system of political transparency. It makes you ask some really tough questions about how much power unelected, secret advisors really have. It's a perfect case study in how modern data can be used not just to understand voters, but to manipulate them. And ultimately, it shines a massive spotlight on the growing problem of dark money in politics. And that really leaves us with this one big question to think about. When the real mechanics of politics, the money, the data, the secret strategies, are all happening in the shadows, who's actually in control? Is it the people who cast their votes, or is it the unseen architects pulling the strings from behind the curtain? Something to chew on. Thanks for tuning in.